Hey, we're here and we're talking about the 10 sefirot with Eliakim the dream with his phylacteries on his head is fulfilling the biblical commandment to put tefillin on your head every day, except Shabbat and holidays. And Philippa is a wonderful lady in Brittany here, my top student, Philippa, and my top student, Eliakim. And I learn more from you two than you learn from me. I can't articulate this stuff unless I have you two to reflect and to interact. Philippa is very empathic and has helped a lot of people with healing techniques, and has a horse. Still have a horse or no more?
No, he died.
Oh, he died, but you have a dog and a bird?
I've got a dog, a bird, and 2 cats at the moment.
Oh, lovely. Okay. So you have friendly critters and a wonderful son and a wonderful mother. Up in the rainy Brittany, in France. France. Okay, so we're talking about the 10 sefirot. We need to know them by heart, below, forwards, and backwards before we can do anything here, because we're talking about the emergence of the 10 sefirot from the world of akudim, the world where, how do you define akudim, Eliakim?
Binding.
Like a kedah with the binding of his Isaac. But what's the Kabbalistic definition of akudim? Very simply.
It's the first place where the light had some sort of form.
Okay, again, I'm going to say it again, and I'm not going to repeat myself, so either write it down or memorize it. Troops? Okay, troops. Akudim, all the lights of the 10 sefirot are in one vessel. Akudim is the first stage after everything was infinity.
So in the circle diagrams.
There's a circle, and all the light sefirot are in, and the lights, the Nephesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chai, Yechid are the 5 levels of soul, which also are just as important as the names of the sefirot. And all they are the lights and the soul of the sefirot. And these vessels were all kind of like in potential in akudim. It's like the primordial soup, right before there were stars in the sky. It's very interesting. You could say it's a wonderful parallel, actually. I do tell me if it's wonderful or not. Maybe it's just nonsense. But there was a time between the Big Bang and like the first, I don't know, 10 seconds of the world, of the universe or whatever. If you watch these YouTubes about astronomy, you see that at one point, everything was just light and soup, and the ions hadn't bonded. I don't know how to. You have to. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I know that I'm not even an amateur scientist. But it's after a while, the molecules started binding together and forming specific elements, and there was just a time it was just like pink light or something, yellow light. I don't remember what the physicists say it was, and then afterwards we have the empty space between the stars and the moon and everything and the galaxies. So akudim, all the lights are in one vessel. Okay. So Eliakim, could you go over that again about this? Explain like the 4 lower sefirot from below to above. And you did a wonderful job, and you taught me something about gratitude. I'll be right there. So Eliakim, take it away.
Okay, so Malchut is the lowest, and these are just words that are used to describe processes. So how to really understand what they mean, we give them words that may.
I don't know if you can hear me, but I can't hear you.
Okay, okay, there's Yesod. So what are the possible translations of Yesod, Philippa?
I couldn't hear a thing, it cut off.
Yesod. Are you there, Eliakim?
Yesod was bonding foundation connection.
Okay, and above Yesod is?
Why don't we? It depends what order you're talking about.
From below to above. Above. So above Yesod on the left side is?
hang on.
Let's just put them all in one column. Forget right, left, and middle, because we don't, the tikkun, the rectification after the breaking of the vessels is to create them in right, left, and middle columns. This has not happened yet. The world of akudim is, what's the world of akudim?
For the binding.
We're meaning the world of binding, but what is it? That doesn't tell us much. What's bound?
All the worlds in one.
Worlds?
And the sefirot.
There's no worlds now. There's just one world of akudim. They're not. This is even before the four worlds.
Elements of the soul are bound in one.
All the lights are in one vessel. All the elements of the soul, the sefirot, are in one vessel. A sefira is basically a vessel with light. God's light. What's light? God has no light. God is not a physical being. That's a way for us to describe God giving to us, because everything we receive is from God. So light is just giving, called the light of wisdom or the light of kindness. So back to the subject. So netzach, hod, and yesod, from above to below. Berudim of yesod, hod, netzach. So draw a little column. On the bottom you have malchut, sovereignty. Above that you have yesod, foundation. And above that you have hod, which means, one of you tell me.
Means gratitude, splendor.
Philippa, what did you hear? But gratitude is a beautiful idea, but I want to get to the traditional translations. What?
Splendor and majesty.
Okay, and now and above hod is, Philippa? Starts with an N.
Huh?
Starts with an N. The spirit above hod is netzach. Netzach, and the ch in transliteration is a cha, like nacht or loch. A netzach, victory, eternity. However, in the interplay between the two, when we haven't even gotten there yet, that's a later stage where we have right and left. On the right side, the side of kindness and giving. The left side is the side of resistance and judgment and holding back. But that's, again, that's a later thing. But then we have gratitude in contradistinction to netzach, which is endurance. But again, like, it doesn't really matter for the time being, because they're all in one column. This is before the breaking of the vessels. So the 10 sefirot come out, and then they go back in, and whenever keter, they're all in one vessel called the world of akudim. And then one comes out, malchut. Then the second comes out, yesod. The next one, hod. The next one, tiferet. Then the next one is gevora, and then the next one is chesed. You can all this information is readily available on the net, so you two can, this, if you want, you don't have to have homework for this class, but I really need, in order to know anything about Kabbalah, you got to know these backwards and forwards. And it's not, they don't mean, sefirot don't mean anything on their own. They're only the way they interact with each other. Just as saying netzach, there's a sefirah called netzach. It means eternity, or it means dominance, or whatever. That doesn't tell us anything. It's like, oh, wow, there's a divine attribute. It's like kind of a vessel for a certain feeling or emotion. Okay, that's cute and sweet, but it tells you absolutely nothing about the system of Kabbalah. So,
Rabbi Pin, since I'm very visual, and I want you to see this, I sent you a link just now on your internet, on your Facebook chat.
I would prefer if we could see you in this group.
You will. What's Philippa's internet? Do I have it? I just sent it to you.
Yeah, I'll give it to you after the class. But what it would be better if you could please put your face on for the class.
Yeah.
So okay, when they come out of the world of akudim, then they're 10 in one column, from malchut all the way up to keter, the crown, 10 sefirot, and then keter goes back in, and so chochma is going to go up one level. It's going to be in the place of keter. Now keter, you have to understand the lights in if keter has the light of, okay, let's continue with Rabbi Ashlag's explanation of this passage of the Arizal. The point is that they all go back into akudim, and during this process, they're all going to share these attributes of the 5 levels of soul. So we first have to explain the 5 levels of soul in the sefirot, called the levels of soul are also called lights. So we could call a sefira, the only difference between light and a sefira is the sefira has a vessel, and the light is just the soul or of the vessel. Again, the basic definition of light, according to Rabbi Ashlag, is wisdom. It's giving, it's bestowing. Why do we say bestowing and not giving? Any ideas?
Yeah, oh, right, because bestowing, that means you still have what you gave. Giving means you're less. You have less than what you had before.
I give you an apple, I no longer have an apple. If I bestow nobility upon you, I knight you. I'm not the king of England or anything, but let's say you're the Philippa's kind of like the queen of England. So Philippa has the power to knight people. So she takes the sword and she puts it. It does the little ritual in your shoulders and on your head. That's ceter, chochma, and bina, right? The left shoulder is the left arm is. The shoulder is a whole different story. Let's keep to the subject, whatever. So you could, Moses imparted nobility on the 70 elders, says, He'etzil min ruach asher alav. He'etzil is the root aleph tzadik lamed, which is the root, it means nobility. Atzilut is nobility. Atzilut is also to be etzel mishu, is shenu. Shenu in French is etzlenu, etzel anachnu, right? Etzlenu, you put the 2 words together. So etzlenu is one word in Hebrew meaning at our place, at our house. Come etzlenu means come to our house. Shenu. So etzel aleph tzadik lamed. So Philippa, write those letters down. They're very, very important. Aleph, tzadik, and lamed. So it means put them together means etzel, meaning at the place of, but it also has a different form in Hebrew meaning nobility, because it says in the Bible that Moses he'etzil, he granted, he bestowed the spirit that was on him onto the 70 elders. So they also had the prophetic spirit of Moses. And Moses did 1 candle can light 1,000, and nothing's lacking in the first candle. That's Atzilut. But we're not even we're before the world of Atzilut here. We're still talking about these. You could say, I guess, no, it would be correct to say that the world of akudim was when everything was Atzilut. I believe, if I remember correctly from my studies of the Eitz Chaim, that before the breaking of the vessels, everything was Atzilut. Atzilut is Etzel, God, really. Etzel, the infinite. How do you say, at the place of the infinite in French? Probably sounds very nice. Philippa? Chez le Dieu.
I would say chez l'endroit d'infini, mais I don't know if it's right.
Chez endroit de l'infini. Chez endroit l'infini, in the place of the infinite. But it's Atzilut, it's not the infinite, but it is the infinite, because it's the light of wisdom coming out from the infinite and creating a space. A spiritual space, which is barely perceivable as a space to us because it's so connected to the infinite, which is beyond space. So anyhow, in the world of Atzilut, there are 10 lights, they all come out in one column, they all go back in, and when chochma, when keter goes back up, it doesn't come back, but it leaves a residue, everything leaves a rishimu. So when it goes up, it left its light below, like when the tzaddik leaves, this is actually in Rashi. Rashi talks about it somewhere in the Bible. Rashi, the classical Jewish commentary on the Bible, who everybody studies, from the 12th century in France, not far from Brittany. And I think it was in, in the Rhineland in France. Anyhow, like Worms and Speyer around those places. But he was definitely on the French side of the Rhine. Anyhow, Rashi said when the tzaddik, the righteous person is in town, you feel the presence. Well, he's a person who he doesn't care so much about eating and drinking in the physical world. He just enough to survive, to live, but all his physical, he still leads a physical life. He still gets married. He still has to have a job. But everything he does is really dedicated to God. And a tzaddik is somebody who follows the laws of the Torah, basically, and dedicated to God. It doesn't mean, and some say it means that he no longer has a desire to sin. So if you no longer have a desire to eat non-kosher food, even though it's around you, you are a tzaddik in that respect. A tzaddik means a righteous person. So the tzaddik, Rashi says, the tzaddik comes to visit your house. Then he leaves your house. He leaves a reshimu, meaning a residue, an imprint. And so the light of the tzaddik, so to speak, is still in your house after he leaves. You still feel it, like, wow. You feel it in the words you remember, the experience. You're still in the aura, so to speak, of the tzaddik, even though physically he's not in the room. That's the same thing with I believe with the light. So what light is associated with which sefirah? The light of Chaya, the yechida. Yechida is the most sublime. Now, the yechida is generally associated with keter, the crown. Yechida means unique. It says in the Bible, Hatzileni mikelev yechidati. Hatzileni mishaol nafshi mikelev yechidati. Save my soul, Nephesh, from hell. And it says, and from my yechida, from the dogs. This basically means save my soul from the dogs. People who are like dogs, not literally dogs, but could be dogs literally, but mostly is people who want to tear me down like a dog. But he said the dog is considered in the ancient world the lowest of creatures. You call somebody a dog in the Middle East, it's like calling him a cockroach, maybe in another country, in the Western world. And so anyhow, saying the lowest level, he's saying he has to save my highest level of soul from the very lowest level. So the very low, the most extent, from real evil, basically, a mad dog, right? And so what happens? So the keter is the yechida is the sublimest light, the unique soul. We call it the unique soul. Yichud, because it has to do with the word for unique. Yechid has to do with the word echad. Echad is one, and yechid is unique. So yechid, Y-E-C-H-I-D-A, the yechida. That's the light in keter. And then below that you have the yechida, the chaya, the living soul. Chaya, like chai, everybody knows the word chai. Chai, chawaya, how you doing? So chai is chet yud, meaning living, alive. Hu chai is he is alive. Chaya is the life force. It's in kabbalah. It means the living soul. Chaya in Hebrew, in the ancient Hebrew, meant a birthing coach. What do you call the woman who helps the woman give birth?
A midwife.
A midwife is a chaya in old Hebrew. In modern Hebrew, miyaledet. But anyhow, so the chaya, that's the level of soul associated with the sefira of chochma. Chochma is wisdom. It's the second highest sefira of the 10 sefirot. You have keter on the top is the crown. That's the most sublime, and it's like basically totally connected to what is above. And then there's no separation. So that's the crown. The same way the crown is on the head of the king with the little spitzes, I don't know, the points going up. That's kind of like a representation of how it's on his head, but it's not a part of him. And the points are like connecting back to above in the infinite. As if to say that the nobility of the kings was bestowed by God. Who made Saul a king? Who made David a king? The prophet chose the king, but the prophet is only speaking for God. Prophet who has a person who has perfected himself and no longer has an ego and was chosen by God to channel prophecy. And there are no prophets today. There haven't been any prophets since Malachi and Zechariah. So in the Babylonian exile. So why? Because everybody was a prophet all of a sudden. So the wise men of Israel said every guy in the corner was speaking prophecy, and it's all messed up. So and the temple's destroyed. And when the temple destroyed, no more prophecy. So anyhow, so the prophet is a channel, is a vehicle for imparting nobility. So prophecy on the nobility on the king, as like etzil, like we said, to bestow the nobility. So so what's going on now? So that's keter, and then keter goes back into the akudim, and it leaves a residue of the light of the yechida. So chochma that had normally within it the light within the sphere of chochma that came out of the world of akudim. It came out with its light, a vessel and light, and the light that it had was called the light of Eliakim. What light was in chochma?
The light of Hasidim.
Chaya. Okay. From below to above. So from below to, I call narnachai. Write down narnachai. In Hebrew, nun resh nun chet yud. Nun resh nun chet yud. You got a pencil and paper, Eliakim?
Nun resh nun chet yud.
Yeah. That's called narnachai. In English, Narnichai.
What is it?
At nun resh nun chet yud.
Narnachai. What's that?
Narnachai is an initial letters, is a memory aid.
Is what?
But Narnachai is Roshe Tevot, the initial letters. It's an abbreviation for the 5 levels of soul. The 5 levels of soul from below to above are, the abbreviation is Narnachai. The first N or Nun is Nephesh. Nephesh, Nun Feshin. Nephesh is the animal soul, the lowest level of soul, the basic soul we need to operate in the world. Everybody in the world, and every animal, and every plant, and every rock has all these levels. So Nephesh is in each and every cell. Rabbi Hadaya, the Rosh Yeshiva of the Beit-El Yeshiva, the Kabbalist Yeshiva in Jerusalem. It's like the Harvard University of Kabbalah. It goes all the way back to the Rashash Rabbi Shalom Sharabi 300 years ago, and that took him all the way back to the Arizal. So it's the Arizal's Yeshiva that's still alive today in Jerusalem. It's called Beit-El. And the Rosh Yeshiva of Beit-El, I was so privileged, not even worthy to sit with him for 1 year, my first year in Israel. And it was just wonderful to be with one of those real true Kabbalists from the previous generation. And so Rabbi Shalom Adaya, blessed memory, just 1 year with him. He taught the kids, like all the Kabbalists with their beards and their yarmulkes on, and their he taught them like children. He taught the Kabbalah like children in a kindergarten. So it was, in other words, it was very simple and very clear. And he said, in each and every cell in the human body, you have Narnachai. Each and every cell in the human body, you have these 5 levels of soul. Narnachai. Nephesh is the first one. The next one is Resh, meaning Ruach. Ruach means
wind
or
enthusiasm.
I like that. Spirit. This shows some spirit, shows some enthusiasm. Spirit, the spirits. If you feel the spirit around, you call it a ruach. I hope it's a ruach tov, a good ruach. Up in Scotland, in the castles, that's filled with the ruchot, lots of ruchot. There's a ruach, and so it means a spirit, like a ghost, but it could be a good spirit, a pleasing spirit. Nachat ruach is the greatest thing in the world. It's a Jewish way of saying pride, to be the spirit of contentment that a parent has for a child when the child does something wonderful. When Philippa, what's your son's name again?
Samuel.
Samuel. When Samuel started walking and we started doing wonderful things around, and you felt such a satisfaction. It's not pride. In the Western world we call it pride. In the Jewish world we call it nachat ruach, the spirit of contentment. So it's a good ruach. So, but it's not the soul like in your blood. The Bible says the Nephesh is in the blood. Remember, Kabbalah is all based on the Bible. It goes all the way back to the Bible, and that's the root really of Kabbalah. And so when it says the soul is in the blood, don't eat the blood. It's totally forbidden to be digesting any kind of blood in the Jewish law. And so the blood, it says that we don't, why the Bible, God said, don't eat the blood because the Nephesh is in the blood. Now the Ruach is higher, it's a spirit, it's a feeling you have, but Ruach is also wind, it comes and goes. Like so love could be described as a Ruach. Some people are in love and they fall out of love. There's no reason for love. There's no reason for the opposite of love. There's a reason you can appreciate. I appreciate Sprinza, this wonderful girl Sprinza. I'm in love with her. I don't know why. If you investigate it, there's no reason for it. Piasetzner Rebbe said that. Rebbe of the Warsaw Ghetto, Rebbe Piasetzner. The Rebbe of the Warsaw Ghetto says in love and the opposite, there's no real, you investigate it deeply, there's no reason for it. However, appreciation, I asked Rabbi Steinsaltz and he said to me, but appreciation, I love Sprinza because she has pretty eyes and she plays the piano and she listens to me and she has a good heart. First thing should be a good heart, really. So that's appreciation. Love is a ruach, it's a ruach. Okay, afterwards, it's a ruach that we really want though. It's like, I'm in love with God. Why am I in love with God? I don't know why, because he chose us, because I know he gives us everything, but I don't really know what, I can't put my finger on it. Above ruach, you have neshama, the breathing soul, neshima, Neshima, or in Hebrew, nun, it doesn't matter, I'll just say it in English for the time being. Neshima is a breath. When you breathe in, it's called a neshima. And breathing in is neshima. Neshama with Neshama is the breathing soul. This is the soul associated with the sefirot of bina. Again, from below to above, Malchut equals Nephesh. Tiferet equals Ruach. Neshama equals bina, understanding. Bina is understanding. Neshama, the breathing soul, is bina. Above that, what's the sphere above bina, Eliakim?
Chochma.
Chochma, and what's the level of soul in chochma? It's narnachai. So nefesh, ruach, neshama, we already went through. Nefesh in malchut, ruach in tiferet, neshama in bina, and chochma has chaya, the living soul. Chochma has chaya. That's why the light of chochma, Rabbi Ashlag says, is also the light of life. When God bestows his light of chochma, wisdom, he's bestowing the light of life. Our life force is the light of wisdom and the light of life. It's the same thing. So that's the illumination we want. Keter has the light of yechida, the highest, most sublime sefirot, the crown, connected directly to the infinite. That's yechida. It's the most sublime, imperceptible level of the soul. It's unique in the sense that we can't even fathom it based on our own understanding so much. You can call it by name. So the next thing we're going to talk about, so when every sphere goes up, it gets the light from the previous sphere. So when Malchut comes up to the level of Tiferet, Malchut is not only going to have the Nephesh in Malchut, but it's going to gain What level of soul? What's above Nephesh? Philippa?
Ruach.
Ruach. So Malchut gets Ruach when she goes up a step, because she's in the place of Tiferet now, because everything went up a step back into the world of akudim. And then when finally, so basically, then Keter goes in, doesn't come back. Chochma goes up, Bina goes up, Tiferet goes up, and Malchut goes up. The 5 main sefirot, 10 sefirot, but we call them in 5 names, because Tiferet includes 6. Tiferet includes Chesed, Gvur, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. So so they go up. We also call Tiferet Zer Anpin. Very important. When you write Tiferet, that's the same as in the Partzuf of Zer Anpin. Zeir Anpin. Zeir Anpin. That's Tiferet. That's Tiferet, and that's the level of Ruach. And then Bina has the Neshama, the chochma has the Chaya, and Keter has the Yechida. So finally, when Malchut goes all the way back to akudim, she's got all the 5 levels of soul. That's what's going on.
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Now we know what's going on, and we can finally continue. I hope that was interesting.
It was fabulous.
Okay, peace and love.
Peace and love.